So I see you there. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Let me turn this down over here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cool. All
Hey.
right, man.
Hey,
I'm
everybody. What's
excited.
going on? It's going on. Um, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty to start off today, but just want to say thank you for those of you who are watching live. The first live, like true show and setting up. Um, we're live on YouTube. I was going to be live on Facebook, but it had a little connection issue. So we're live on Instagram as well. So I'm right here on Instagram. And I'm just making sure that my stream is showing up on. So I'm seeing like an error. There we go. Now it's showing up on. It's a little delayed on YouTube, but I'm pumped about being here with all of you, and on Instagram as well, as I mentioned. And again, one of these things, it's your first one, and you'll get kind of like how should I say this? Get the nerves out of what's going on. Like, I know there's gonna be some hiccups to get started, but nonetheless, pretty excited about it. Um, so why am I doing this? Why did I start this? First of all, before I continue, I should probably say who I am. If you're not familiar with my channel, my YouTube channel, my name's Claudio Zavala. Um, if you follow me on Instagram or YouTube, you know that I put out weekly videos, and decided to start this one, being that I've been home for now 6 weeks, and say, you know what, let's just go and start it. Oh, you try to get things to be perfect, but they're never going to be perfect. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. So pretty excited about today. So I have a special guest, a good friend of mine that, so I already have him here on Instagram. So we're kind of already chatting here. I haven't pulled him over on YouTube, but how many, here, let me go ahead and do the intro on YouTube. I'm trying to sync this up on Instagram and on YouTube, so that way it's kind of coinciding. But special guest Michael Cohen, and he's known as the Tech Rabbi. You can follow him on all his different social media platforms. So if you are here on Instagram again, and so let me go ahead and bring him in. Here we go. Let's do a switching through here. Here we go. Now I have a dual screen here on YouTube. So when did, I'm trying to think, when did we meet up? How many years has it been?
It's been a good couple years. It's hard because the digital and the analog, right, of our lives. It's hard to figure out, the when and the where. We know the why because we connected around creativity and education. I definitely feel like it was an ISTE. It was the first face to face, but I
Okay.
think it's been a good couple years on social, just interacting back and forth around different themes that we're passionate about.
Absolutely. And was it, I want to say it was maybe Chicago ISTE. I think that's when I first in person, maybe.
Yeah,
So
could be 18.
18, gosh, time flies. And this year to be a bit different for obvious reasons. But
Yeah.
yeah, so this, when I launched this, and I thought, who should I invite? And I thought, you know what, let me see if Michael's available, and it worked out. Schedules were, I'm in Central Time, and you're over in Pacific Standard Time. So the 2 hour difference of trying to kind of synchronize our times and make sure I get out of school at a certain time, and we were able to make it happen. I think this time worked out great. I'm hoping next week it'll be the same for our next, I guess. But before I continue, and I meant to share this with you at the start, is unveiling what I want to call this channel, what I want to call this show. So, and I meant to tell you right before we started, but we had a bit of a hiccup. And so I'm going to share. You may not be able to see it there, Michael, because let's see. Um, so I this is something I've been kind of had in the back of my head. It's like I want a place to talk with creatives, and just about creativity, and my plans, kind of my dream is to kind of have different people from education, music industry, film, art, just all different, yeah, different industries, and to talk about creativity and the process and how they do the work that they do. So, I'm calling it the Creators Lounge. Is what, in fact, I can probably flip the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. That's what I'm, the little chair
Cool.
there, and that here. Let me fix. So for those of you who are on YouTube and like, what is he doing? They're doing like multicasting on these platforms. So I wanted to unveil it. So you're the first guest on the Creators Lounge. So really, it's a place for us to talk about that, creativity and the whole process of it. And so let me flip back over here. One of the things about running a show like this is you're basically the producer, the person in front of the camera, the person behind the camera, pressing all the buttons, and it's just the way we do it. So,
Yeah. It's, you gotta, in this space, you gotta be it's a jack of all trades, and then also just be a master of like something specific. So, when I'm looking at, the key niche or the key focus, we're passionate about education, but then how can we leverage any possible skill ability that we can to bring additional value and uniqueness to that craft that we do. We'll get into it later, but I tell my students so many times, like, if you think you're going to go to law school or get a business degree or work in, distribution or whatever it is, you got to look at other skills and abilities that could make you just more valuable and stand out.
Definitely, and like you mentioned, it's just the things that we enjoy doing. A lot of times, sometimes for free. Sometimes there's just things, there's no, it's just sharing stuff, and other times, there is, I've got side projects that I work on, and I'm able to make, people see what I'm able to offer, and I'm like, okay, I can, be able to offer services and help you out with the creative avenue of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to create, and can maybe consult, but definitely, yeah. So you talked about, with your students, and kind of wanted to shift to talking about creativity. And first off, if those of you who are watching or are listening, if you don't know, Michael has written a book, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of show it right here. And he's got it. You've got it there behind you as well. Educated by Design. And well, actually, for people who may not know like your background, before we kind of go on, and I have something here I want to ask you about the book, but let people know, you're like, where did you kind of, and I know the story, but for those that are not familiar, how did you get into education, and what was your journey?
Yeah, I think it's a fun journey. There's hard work involved and a lot of stress many times, but like, I love to help people. I love supporting people. That's just, it's part of my core. And I got a fine art degree. I went to school for design, printmaking, fine art. And there was a point in my life where I thought I was going to be a famous artist. I had shows in New York
Mm-hmm.
and in Los Angeles, and really was focused on that. I was a creative director for a design company that I co-founded, and we were just like making stuff. And there was a point that I got bored. I found this opportunity. I don't even know how I stumbled upon it, but it was to teach an adjunct position at Fashion Institute in downtown LA.
Hmm.
Graphics, intro to graphics, and I fell in love with teaching in that first semester. The excitement and the energy of showing people how to go from, I have no idea how to use this software, to, hey, I'm making stuff and I have a potential now to leverage this skill in design, both as how I look at the world and then how do I process it using software. And it wasn't until the end of the semester I got the evaluations from the students, and they said words like empowerment, they support, really personalized and focused. And these were words I had never really heard of. And they invited me to teach some more courses. And we'll fast forward now, 11 years later, I went all in. with education. I was a director of education, technology, graphics instructor, now director of innovation. I did full-time consultant for a while. Now I'm sort of a hybrid. And at the end of the day, it's always been about, how can I build up other people? How can I build up educators? How can I build up students? And all I care about is that the students believe in themselves, so that when I see a student 5 years, 6 years, 8 years after I taught them, I haven't seen any students from that 10th, 11th year yet, but when I do see the ones from years ago, they say, you know, I wasn't so sure about what you were trying to share with me about communication, about media creation. But then I realized, like, now I just finished law school, and I'm working for a law company and, you know, a law firm, and I'm able to create like my own, you know, promotional material, and the other people are paying out of pocket for these designers. I'm like, you know what? I did something for you. So that's the journey, and here we are.
Nice. It's always great to hear kind of where everyone's journey and how they got to where they're at now, and everything. I always think people think, well, I shouldn't have done that. I should have made the decision back years ago. I should have done this, but I think everything works out, I think, for a reason, where you're at and the experiences you went through, and to get you to where you're at now. So, as I was kind of looking through your book, it was, which first of all, the whole cover is just incredibly awesome. I just love the whole, and then the tweets and the post on Instagram, just, I love them. So I was looking through in this quote right here that it is, creativity is more about how you think than what you do. So what I wanted to kind of pick your brain on that, because, you know, there's definitely a lot of people who struggle with the concept of creativity, and you know, I think we're both fans. I'm gonna go on the presumption of like Sir Ken Robinson, and when he talks about creativity, and it's been kind of like squashed out of our kids. And I always share about my son. He loved like elementary school, and if you think about elementary school, they're all those, their groups, and they love, and he was like passionate about like learning and just creating. And then as he got older to like high school, it's like, I just want to get out of here. I'm tired of this. And and you know, people don't think, you know, they lose that creativity. So kind of with that said, think about your quote there. Tell us about, you know, that, and what made you kind of think that, and really let others know about that right there. It's about what you do.
So one of the things that I have really spent a lot of time in education trying to clarify for myself, but importantly for others, and be able to articulate, is how we look at the, you know, the pure, you know, Oxford, Webster, whatever dictionary is your flavor, that definition of creativity. And then what does it look like for your life and for your profession? Because I don't think that creativity is a one size fit all way of, it must look like this. And when I ask people, you know, I'll be at a conference and I'll, you know, ask people like, how do you find creativity? You know, raise your hand if you define it as something you do. And they all raise their hand. It's art, it's music, it's culinary, you know, whatever it is that they do, it's doing. Mm-hmm. And it's not about the thought process. And I started to really take a close look at different educators that, and people outside of education, but, you know, I wrote the book with educators in mind, of course. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that there were educators that they don't draw. They don't have like incredibly branded content. You know, I don't know if mine's incredibly branded, but it's for sure branded. I've developed a style. It stands out. You know that it's my work, but they're incredibly creative. And I realized that creativity is this thought process. And I started to tap into, you know, the Steve Jobs deeper, you know, conversations, you know, the books written about him, but there are documentaries. There's actually this documentary from, is either like the late 80s or the early 90s. And he said that creativity was about connecting things. Mm-hmm. And really connecting people. And so I started to look at creativity in leadership, creativity in the way in which you are able to resolve conflict and improve situations. And it dawned on me that it really is that methodology of problem solving that you could express in so many different ways. So you could be creative as a leader and not pick up a artistic pencil ever in your career and bring incredible value into the world, because that's the core of what creativity is. There is a value that is brought. And it also is I took way too much art history for undergrad. And I discovered that, we look at like a Van Gogh and we're like, oh, like he painted this in the style. But when you like dig deep into the social realities of what was going on at that time, there's so much more than like, I'm going to paint this crazy looking, or I'm going to break the rules. So I think we need to, shift that and then build up more people in their confidence, their creative confidence, creative courage. Two words that I don't know if I coined, the creative courage, that it seems like quite generic, but I push it with passion, because that courage is what gets people to start doing, and not just saying I can't do, because this is what creativity is.
Love it, man. I love what you said, that people will never pick up something and say like, I did this is like creative, but really just the thinking of creative ways to get things done, to do things, to lead, and which I kind of want to segue to talking about like that leadership. But as far as like right now, what we're we're all been going through. It's 6 weeks that I've been working here at home, and being able to share with educators in my own district of tools that they can use remotely and distance learning, which is, it's challenging, of course, but for people who are home, with their own kids, and maybe people that don't have a degree, a background in teaching, education. I have no idea what to do with my 5-year-old, my 10-year-old, my high schooler. What are some creative outlets that that people can do at home, people can do with their kids? So like maybe think of some examples on, I don't know, maybe some challenges. And I don't mean like that it's challenging, but like, hey, try this. But what are some ideas that maybe you can share?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential, and I know that there's this intense pressure from educators are experiencing it, parents are experiencing it, and I don't know if students are experiencing it as much as they're being told to experience it. But the experience is, if we stopped school right now and we did not start school until the fall, like the world would be over. No one would be academically successful. They'd be so far behind from 3 months of lost education that they'll never be able to recoup it. And, I messed around for 2 years after graduating high school. I did a whole bunch of nothing as far as academic growth, and it's working out. I was able to get a bachelor's in fine art, an extra year on top of that regular bachelor's. I got a master's degree. Like people really, really put a lot into this lost time, and I want to emphasize that, because I think that parents need to, and teachers, educators, the whole system around these students, that they're in this environment. There's this incredible amount of pressure. And I'm going somewhere with this. I just want to give context to what I'm about to share, is that we have to use this opportunity to give students a space to explore and discover, and really throw out the crazy coverage of curriculum, the standards, the standardized testing. It's over. Give them the ability to use the lens of language and communication and mathematics and sciences to discover. And they might not discover as deep as they would have done in a traditional learning environment. They're not in a traditional learning environment. So that's my soapbox. And now some practical, like, what would we do? So I think that kids need to explore ways that they can create things out of cardboard, out of duct tape, that they can build things with Legos, but not just arbitrary. Like, set a challenge. figure out something that could be really interesting and technically difficult to create. And we don't like these words, difficult, challenge, rigor. Like, I'm not trying to ruin their lives. I'm just trying to give them an opportunity to really push themselves. You know, if they have access to the internet, which, you know, I hope and pray that more internet service providers will just like open up the floodgates. And the amount of good PR you're going to get from giving the whole world to internet for 8 months, like I'm a lifelong subscriber after that. If you're doing that for people that don't have that internet access and you're dropping off a router modem, you know, in their house, that's huge.
Oh yeah.
So if they have access to the internet, there is coding software now, coding programs, coding curriculum that's all free. Get them experimenting in that. Get them on different design platforms like Adobe that's web-based and free, and get them creating. But most importantly, they got to get out into the world, whether it's physical, you know, obviously social distance, do it safe, but they can also get out into the digital world. Look at the way in which people on YouTube are storytellers, how they're engaging, articulate, creative, and how they set up their space. I mean, I won't tell you how much time it took me to build this home office, that now that I'm stuck, same with you, just about 6 weeks, like I had to invest in making this a place of positive energy and conducive for creativity. So then, you know, get them to just create stuff. And I just was working with a group of my students today, my freshmen, and I said, look, what are your passions? They're like, well, I don't know. And I was like, well, what do you do after you're done with your homework? You know, what do you do? Like, oh, I do A, B, and C. I was like, well, that's called a passion. Yeah. Right? Like, that's what you do. And they're like, passions are sports. Their passions are, you know, exercise, their photography, coding. I was like, well, look, you could create something of value. You could create video content. Yes. You could teach people how to perfect their pick and roll in basketball. And I was like, wouldn't it be crazy if you like stood a mop up like on your court and like that was a player that you had to pick and roll around? Like, people would love it. If you had good cinematography and it wasn't just like a weird angle, like you could create amazing stuff just with your iPhone, just with recording content. You don't have to have fancy technology, fancy setup. You just have to have this ability to tell stories, to make it an interesting journey. And there's plenty of opportunity to do that. And there's plenty of examples to look at and to watch. I have students, they want to, you know, stream on Twitch. And I was like, well, what is it about streaming on Twitch? It's not just about being really good at the game. It's that you're funny, or like the way that you run commentary on your own game and like what's happening during the game. Yeah. Like people go because of that. And it boils down to these core competencies that we're saying that we want them. But especially in high school, you know, English is focused on crazy amounts of writing, and it's all around the canon of literature. So I just think we have to give students opportunities to start creating things with the software that they have or the hardware. Like literally make stuff out of cardboard. You have famous Kane's Arcade. Kid made an entire functional arcade
out of cardboard. Yeah.
Not just like a game. He made like 25 games. You went in there and you played the games, and it was awesome. So I think that moments like that, I just, you know, one more, and I want to segue to like your thoughts and also, move forward in the conversation. But I spoke with someone yesterday who said their child was assigned a research project around the state of Washington. This kid doesn't care about the state of Washington. She lives in Massachusetts. Like, don't like. There's nothing. She doesn't have anything against Washington. Yeah. But like, why does she have to let her pick a state? And she says she wants to pick California because that's where she grew up and she misses it. Yeah. So you're ripping the choice and the value that the student can see in the content that would then motivate them to run through the technical skill, the research, the writing. Yeah. So then he says his son wanted to read a book series that was a little more like above his reading level. And his daughter read over the weekend 160 pages out loud to him. He said that was more of an English lesson of developing an analysis of reading and of text, developing, you know, understanding tone and communication and public speaking, all these core skills we say are so important. So he got more in a weekend than maybe a whole semester, is what he said. Yeah. So Yeah. So, these are the things, and it doesn't require like crazy expensive equipment. It doesn't require VR or like, things like that. They can build, they can create, they can draw, they can. But I think the storytelling. I just love the idea of no drawing or music or cooking. I'm really bad at cooking. I heard my son this morning. He's like, I need breakfast. And my wife was like, well, why? Your father was up. And he's like, he only knows how to cook eggs. And I'm like, I could cook like a grilled cheese too. I could do oatmeal, but like I don't have that skill.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have everything, but there's ways to use your smartphone to literally capture, document, create, and share that value. And I think it's in the realm of everybody.
Absolutely. And as you were mentioning about creating, being stuck indoors or being stuck right now, but being able to create while you're home, and kind of looking through some of the chat here, and some great Brian Carpenter is like, anything of value comes out of struggle and challenge and overcoming obstacles. And I like that right there. I'd like, kind of coincides with what you're saying. It's we see this is an opportunity. You have that challenge, and you'd be surprised on what you can produce and what you can make. Someone else was saying here, and I can kind of relate to this. iPad Pro, I think it was, or here. Someone was saying, I think it just went through, but right now, 3 weeks. My 12-year-old is now mastering Procreate, and just the time to being able to be at home is giving the opportunity for students and adults being able to go back to those things that they're passionate about, and being able to master. So like in these 3 weeks, he was saying that his 12-year-old is now like mastering Procreate. So I can relate to that, because my daughter comes and asks, hey Dad, can I use your iPad Pro? And she's like an incredible artist. I said, yeah, go ahead, take it anytime you want to take it, as long as you're doing something, as long as even if she wants to play games, I'm cool with that. I don't have an issue with that, because there's a lot of thinking. My 22-year-old and my 15-year-old, they get together and they'll play video games. I know they play Minecraft, and there's some other ones, but they're up there having conversations. They're talking about, why did you do that? Don't go. Why are you doing that? Why are you making that? Why did you make that decision? Well, here's why. Here's what I'm planning. Here's what I'm doing. You can imagine if all that's happening like at school, how much more that problem solving students will be able to do if they're given that option, that opportunity to be able to do those things. It's kind of funny that you were talking about the student. You said about Washington and want to be able to, I want to do California because that's where I'm, that's the connection that I have. Just funny story to remind me when I think it was third grade. I share it with people and they crack up about this. We were all doing animal reports. It was a science, little thing. You'd go looking at it, back in the day, go look in the encyclopedia, I'm writing. It was almost plagiarism at that, at that level. But I wanted to do a report about sharks. I was like, I want to do sharks. And the teacher was like, well, there's already some. It was a student teacher. I'm not going to, I don't remember her name, but she was like, there's already someone doing sharks. I go, but I want to do sharks. I love sharks. I'm like, why don't you do otters? And I'm like, I don't want to do otters. I want to do sharks. And to this day, I don't have a sensitive spot in my heart for otters, because I was forced to write about otters, and it was like, darn it, I wanted to write about sharks. So, I'm all, now it's like Sharknado and Shark Week, all that kind of stuff. Like, yes, that's what I wanted to do. See, maybe I would have been the one that made the Sharknado, but I don't know. I wonder what would have happened if she would have let me do the shark report. But anyways, that's just kind of like a funny story to share. So,
Crazy though, right? It's crazy because, like, what are we worried about? That the other students would learn too much about sharks, or that like it's so critical, mission critical, that if we don't learn about otters, like it's all is lost. And I feel like there's this desire to ensure that so much knowledge and information is absorbed in the classroom, like in the walls.
Hey, Michael, hold on. I lost your audio. I lost your audio on the. Hold on, almost. This kind of stuff always happens to everyone. I need one of those little. We'll be right back. Let's see here if I can do anything on my end. Very faint. Oh, I see what happened over here. Let's see. It's like I lost your audio signal over here. Let's see. Go try to say something again. Testing. Sing a song for us. Tell a joke in the meantime. Oh, let's see here. Let's try this. Interesting. Let's see why I did that.
I wonder. Hold on. Let me see something.
Well, in the meantime, I'm going to go through. I see a ton of people have hopped in and out. Thank you so much for those of you who kind of have hopped in and out. And I see people here on Instagram as well.
I wonder if I kick off. You hear me now?
I hear you. I'm hearing you on my Instagram. On Instagram, not on. Is your audio on the
it's showing it
on the Hangout?
But it got unplugged.
Let's try something here. Let's see if this works here. Oh, don't see it. Charades. Okay, let's see. Interesting.
Do you want me to hop out?
Yeah, let's try that. Let's see if that works. We'll hop out and hop back in. That's not going to hurt. And while we wait for Michael. Oh, there you go. You're back in.
Can you hear me?
Ah, there you are. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
All right.
I just gotta hop in, hop out. All right.
All right.
Okay. So, as I was passionately and excited at sharing, I don't remember what I was sharing, but it was definitely about student choice.
Yeah, the student choice. That's what kind of we were. Yeah, it's interesting how little hiccups like that kind of will throw us off. But hey,
yeah,
we're just kind of.
I remember now.
Okay, go ahead.
So he said the student, 8th grade student, he said he never had an opportunity to write about what he's interested in. Now, he's an 8th grader. He's probably over-exaggerating, but it doesn't matter if he's over-exaggerating because his perception is what is going to define his confidence and love as a writer. So even if he's only 50% spot on, he's 100% spot on. So I said, fine, you'll get to write whatever you want to write about. And he actually loves horses. He did like horseback riding at like some public space, like in some event. And he fell in love with the idea of, being able to ride horses. So he wrote about riding horses, and it was like crazy amount of content that he wrote. And I think that it's just really important that we use this time right now to focus as much as we can on, oh, I want you to do writing. I want you to do research. I want you to, present something. It's got to be something that you're into. You have to be passionate or interested about the topic or a subset. So one of my kids' teachers, he does not really like English class. He doesn't feel confident as a writer, and it's a research report, and he gets to write what he wants to write about. So he picked rockets, and he's really excited about SpaceX and Elon Musk. And I'm like, great, me too. So I'll even help you. We'll research together, and we can, get inspired to write. So give the students that space for student choice is literally like you're 75% there with them, and maybe even 100% there when we're talking about distance learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm looking through kind of the stream here, and I recognize a lot of folks, and I think a lot of them would concur with that about giving the students the opportunity to follow what they're passionate about. And I think that's where we get a lot of creative solutions when that we don't expect to happen. But if we didn't give them that opportunity, we might not see. We talked a little bit about Elon Musk. You were talking about him before we started, and just imagine if someone had stunted his opportunity for those things that he was passionate about. He probably would have still done it anyways. But I'm not too versed in a lot of his history of growing up or anything like that. But just imagine people like that, people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, just said, no, you can't quit school. You got to keep doing this over here. I mean, we wouldn't have some of these tools that we're using today if they had not taken that risk and just say, I'm just going to do what I'm passionate about and what I know to do, what I love to do.
Absolutely.
Cool. So, I'm really enjoying this time, and let's go and talk a little bit about some of our favorite things. Like I know we DM each other back and forth talking about video tools, video apps, and I can maybe geek out a little bit right now, and like some of our favorite tools for creating videos, photography, even some hardware, software, some of those things. So I'll go ahead and kind of like, what are some of your favorite tools to use for creating, and you just kind of open it up that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think creating like a really cost-effective mobile video setup is something that I just love. There's tools and different things that I use to make things happen. I'm a lover, of Adobe software, but I have my Rode microphone, little shotgun microphone. You can use it with the phone. You could take it off and actually, I actually 3D printed years ago this little adapter so it could look like a handheld microphone. Nice. And it would just like slide in the top. So you have that Rode mic. You have some sort of iPhone or smartphone holder that hooks onto. I use a Joby, a Gorilla tripod. And I love it. And I have SLRs. Like I got this one behind me. I have a couple out in the corner. Like I feel like I know the picture quality is great, but it just creates like these additional steps. And I just love that. Like I can just create. I literally there was a video I put out a couple weeks ago. I filmed it and I edited it in Adobe Premiere Rush on my phone, like with overlays and cuts and title transitions, like the whole thing. So you have the ability to create and capture. And I think that is just empowering for many people to be able to document. And it's just, I mean, I think it supports, what I love to do, which is I love to tell stories. I love to create. I love to share. What about you?
So let's see, someone was kind of tweeting about, USB mic works plug and play with the iPad Pro. I haven't seen that one. Let's see.
When I got my iPad Pro, so I have the 10.5 inch from I think 2017 or 18, and you could actually buy a Lightning to USB powered camera adapter. So it's got to be the powered one where you can plug the lightning charger cable into it, and it can power and run a USB microphone.
Nice.
which is pretty rad. So I'm wondering with the new iPad Pro with the USB-C, can you plug a USB-C microphone right into the iPad Pro? Because that'd be pretty slick.
Yeah, I haven't tried.
Got like really high quality audio.
I haven't tried that. I think mine are still like the Rode Video Micro that you were talking about. I have that plugged in right now into my camera. That one's got the auxiliary, that little 3.5 or whatever that little jack is. So the iPad Pro doesn't have that, so I need to get an adapter. But as you were kind of talking, I'm totally in agreement with having the ability to create with like this. I have a phone. I have my camera here that I'm using to do the stream, which is I use that for a lot of. It's one of those things. If I'm getting paid to do something, like someone says, "Can you go take my picture, or can you shoot a video at our event or something like that?" If someone's paying me to do it, I'm going to take my camera, like my mirrorless. I was like, okay. I was like, unless I take, the B script, I'll, they won't even tell if it's a phone, but, but most of the time, like, especially when I'm out riding my bicycle, I'm not going to take my camera with me and mount it on top of my head here. You got GoPros, but man, the phone is so incredible. And you were talking about being able to create a whole, shoot, edit, export, share, all right here. There's it almost, it's getting so close. A good friend of mine did a video where he was talking about how close, Jay Dunmore, on Instagram, on how close cameras and phones are getting to the point where it's just like it's almost becoming hard to, if I were to shoot a video and show you one from my phone and from the cameras, like you may not, to the naked eye, you're not going to be able to tell where it came from. So I say all that to say that you have pretty much a studio right here in your hand, and this was like, I'm going to share with you. This was like my first, my first little gear that I got for my phone, and I still have it here. And this was basically gave me I forgot which iPhone. I think it was the 5. Did they make a 5? I don't remember. Basically put this on the camera there and gave me a wide angle shot. And the pictures that came from it were like, wow, how'd you shoot that? That was on my phone. And then the cool thing about this, if I unscrew this, then it goes to a macro lens. So
is that the iographer?
No, this one was just a knockoff Techno that I picked up on Amazon. It was like $29 or something like that. So the macro one, so you can get really, shoot close to, flowers or insects, and it was great. But so I was going to share this little adapter here, some like cool tech gear. So I shoot with the camera. I do a lot of like my promo videos in here, and I'll shoot with the camera. I just like the way the camera does the depth of field. But, I don't want to jump on Premiere Pro on my computer and edit, because it's just like, I enjoy using it, but I was like, I need to get it out within like 10 minutes. So this right here plugs into my iPhone, and I take the SD card, plug it in here, and I set up, it's a setting that I have in there. So basically when I put it in here, I can import that video clip right into my iPhone and start editing what I shot on my X-T3. It just has to make sure that the codec is right. And it's like, and then I can leave my room. We'll go on walks after work, and I can continue, edit while I'm walking and make sure I'm having a conversation, but also like, I'm gonna get this video out. But the abilities, you mentioned Premiere Rush. I love that app. If you haven't played with Premiere Rush, try it out. Some other ones that I love are Adobe Spark. I know we're both huge fans of Adobe Spark, and what you're able to create with that. You talked about, I think you said you were at FITM, I think, right?
Yeah.
And graphic design background. So my brother and I had a graphic design little company for a while, and his background was in graphic design. Mine was more like on the ed tech side, but I did some of the web stuff he designed. But you can create that high end looking professional content, and your students can create that magazine looking photos, graphics, videos with Spark. I mean, that's a great start. So if you're not trying Spark, I would definitely get into that. What would you say I probably use Spark Post more than the other two. I use the other ones, video as well. I do a lot more video with Premiere Rush, but Spark Video, in fact, I released a video yesterday taking your presentations like Google Slides, PowerPoint, and Keynotes, and like exporting images and bringing them into Spark Video, like do some quick overdubs, narrations. What is like one of your, I guess, favorite features of Spark Post? Maybe let's geek out a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm a huge Adobe Spark and Adobe Rush fan. So just for some context, I have been using the Adobe software for about 20 years now. And I'm self-taught. So there was no YouTube, there was no Google. I taught myself Photoshop. It was an incredibly difficult process to teach myself through like books and some people helping me and taking some courses throughout high school and, at the college level. And I spent a lot of time teaching Photoshop to as young as fourth grade. At the fourth grade level, it's basically like giving a root canal. That's how difficult and painful it is for the students, but they get it done. So when Spark came out, I was absolutely mind blown. And the speed that they are bringing in features that are just so simple and like 6 to 10 steps to achieve something. It's just like click, move, drag, toggle. So what I'm in love with is I love the ability in there to quickly align text to like full alignment. I love that. I love that full square text that can just pop. And that would take some time to create and to put together. And so what you're seeing now is months and months and months of training and working towards building skills because you're either overwhelmed by the hundreds of features in Photoshop or Illustrator, or because of the technical capacity that you have to remember. It just becomes, it's a drag. You just drag your feet with it. So a first grader can get into Adobe Spark Post and just start creating. And I think that text feature is amazing. I do like their the AI component that is color matching photographs that you bring in.
Yeah.
So it's basically like eye dropping the picture to then pick different colors. I don't know how they do the fonts because I think it's really subjective because the fonts are like, they're not like blood dripping fonts. They're like kind of like in a spectrum of like normalcy. Mm-hmm. So they're not like overly specialized fonts. So I don't know how they're picking the fonts. So I'm always intrigued, like when it picks like a Times New Roman style, like serif versus sans serif.
Yeah.
To like be nerdy with terminology. And then what's like epic right now, and like you posted out a tweet about it. I saw it. I posted out a tweet.
Yes.
It was like Hanukkah in April. Is the ability to group objects. I cannot tell you how much time I waste.
Oh my gosh.
Picking and moving and dragging like 5 or 6 little items, little icons that are all like nestled together, and I got to move them all over just a smidge. So like I said, as someone who is taught all the way at the higher ed level, Photoshop, a professional designer by trade for about 8 years before I got into education, I use Adobe Spark Post on a daily basis. I'm not getting into Photoshop. I rarely get into Photoshop these days because it's just so quick to create my YouTube thumbnails, my social media posts, unless I'm going in to like manipulate a photograph or like create like a collage that has like layered gradients and, different filter overlays. I'm not going in.
Yeah. I'm probably the same with Photoshop. I was a huge user, like Photoshop was like probably my first Adobe app that I was really into, and I mean I still use it, but I do more manipulation with Photoshop, like editing trees and because I do some freelance photos, senior photos and stuff. I'll it works with like removing acne or stray hairs. But
Yeah.
other than that, that's about the only time I jump into there. One of the other, I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying about Adobe Spark posts is that you have the, it removes that whole having to figure out the design part, like for many students, like you said, and just being able to focus on the content and not really focus on the tool. But like you can really, whereas I think with a Photoshop, you're like trying to figure out which tool you're going to use to do that part. But with over here, it's just like I can focus on my idea, and it's just like, oh, there, boom. But like when you like you said, the grouping, that was like, I think it was over the weekend when I saw it. I was like, or last week, I was like, oh my gosh, what? Oh, this is like grouping was like, I was like blown away by that. I'm like, yes, I love the grouping. One of the other tools that, and then kind of we'll get, I see our time, good. It went quick. But one of the other apps that I use a ton is Lightroom. And I have the Creative Cloud account. And so that's one of those that, the benefit of having Creative Cloud is I can cross over a lot of my presets that I use in Photoshop and bring them in. So I do a lot of editing with Lightroom, and it's basically like color correction, and adding some like effects and things like that. But I love photography, and I take a lot of photos on my phone. It's just great. Like I said, it fits in my pocket. I'm able to do it wherever I'm at, when I'm walking, when I'm biking. So, yeah, I mean, I love geeking out on stuff like this. This is so cool. So, got about, 5 minutes is scheduled time, but obviously we can go over, but, kind of shifting gears and getting close to wrapping up here. But, on speaking of like nerding on stuff, and we talked about this before, and I'm looking forward for you sharing this, but it was like something that I want to kind of do whenever I have a guest is ask like some of your favorite, like non-educational stuff, but like favorite movies, songs, bands, and book. Those four things. So, what would be what are your favorites of those movie? We'll start with movie, and then we'll do the next one.
Yeah. So, I'm really into documentaries, and the only time you'll really catch me watching a entertainment movie is on, one of the legs of one of my flights.
Okay.
And I got quite a bit of those under my belt, but it's, my last flight was the 25th, I think, of February. But I'm in love, absolutely in love with a documentary called General Magic. It was one of the most fascinating storylines that I mean, in recent memory. The premise of the documentary, you got to check it out, rent it, whatever you can do to consume it, is Steve Jobs gets fired from the company that he founds. And a group of engineers and creative people that were really his founding team, they were like, they were crushed. And they convinced Apple to invest in a side startup with full autonomy called General Magic. And they built the iPhone 15 years before the iPhone came out.
Wow.
And a lot of those people came back to Apple and worked when Steve Jobs came back, and were instrumental in the iPod, the iPhone. It's crazy. You literally are seeing this prototype of the iPhone that never was.
Wow.
So that's amazing. Like totally fascinating, amazing. I was taking notes. I mean, I was like, wow, like this insight, this person. Then as I was setting up my space and like looking at different things that I like to just have up as I'm, sitting in my office and sort of daydreaming about what's possible. My mother, and cleaning out her house, was like, I got to get rid of like some of this stuff that I've collected. So I don't know if you could see this right now. I'll show you also on Instagram. This is a VHS of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from like 1990. Okay. And I loved that movie. So that's where I'm at.
Practical effects. I love it. Okay. Favorite song.
Song. hard for me. It's hard for me to like choose music. I just like I don't know. I used to be like really super into music. I was actually really into years ago, like in my younger years, my teenage years, like really into punk rock and drum and bass. You know, actually like whatever, you know, I'm going to do it, even though I was like, oh, do I do it or not? So I'm also a huge Iron Maiden fan.
Wow.
And,
okay.
like,
So that was
like,
my next question, the band. So Iron Maiden. All right.
So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
That is cool. That is cool.
The tech rabbi, you know, listens to Iron Maiden. So guilty.
Awesome. Okay. Now last one, favorite book.
Another super hard one.
Okay.
There are some books that have absolutely transformed the way that I look at the world. I think that Dr. Tina Seelig, who is professor at Stanford, her book "What I Wish I Knew When I Was 20" really like put me in a totally different headspace. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V's Thank You Economy, which he says is his favorite book. It's not his bestseller. People like crush it. They like jab, right hook. Thank You Economy, all about how do you bring value and give as much as you can. Obviously, you know, being, you know, fiscally responsible and strategic, but like, how do you give as much value as you can? That Thank You Economy. But a book that really told me that almost anything is possible is this book right here. I don't know if it's like reversed and backwards. So the Crossroads of Should and Must by Ella Luna. She was working for a startup in Silicon Valley and, you know, probably doing well financially. And she shares it in the book, you know, job security, even though it was a startup. She's like, but I'm not fulfilled. And she basically moved into a studio apartment to create an art studio and became an artist, and then reflects on that journey of doing what she loves and doing what she's passionate about. So I think that, you know, within reason, you know, not everything is practical for everybody, but you can draw from people's journeys. You know, it's like dropping out of college, right? It's like, oh, I could drop out. I could go to college and then drop out and like build a company. And it's like, you know, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of, you know, Stanford. It's like, yeah, get into Stanford. Yeah. Okay. Step one, then drop out of Stanford to launch a startup.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are times where people didn't make the move and they really should have. So, you know, having a mentor and having people that you confide in, besides for your parents who love you so much that they'll sometimes be blinded by risk and safety analysis. Like, you really have to have a mentor. Yeah. I remember the story on it. Do you remember ICQ Messenger?
Man, no, I don't.
Oh man. So this is like when people were still using, you know, AOL Instant Messenger. This was like the nerdy, like only like the gamers or like nerdy tech people knew about it. And it was developed in Israel. And one of the guys, like, they were going to drop out of college to launch this platform. And one of the parents of like one of the founders, like, she wouldn't let her son drop out of college. So he basically, I don't know if he like kept equity, but he definitely was no longer part of it. And they ended up selling the company to like one of these tech companies for, you know, three digit millions, like wow. $600 million or something like that. So you gotta take those risks and try things. That's like,
I'm just looking it up right
Someone's now. Like, I said a comment in the live, like I was totally on ICQ.
Yeah,
like,
I saw it.
Nerd alert. All right, I'm loving it.
Well, that is so cool, man. It's really, you know, and I asked those questions because I think I like getting, you know, just to know a little bit more, but also, I mean, all that you shared based on why some of those things are your favorites. That's kind of like a great insight that I think I enjoyed, and I think others would enjoy as well. Man, this has been a great time chatting with you, man. I've enjoyed it. Absolutely. I'm sure we could sit here and keep going, and people will probably stop watching, but this has been great. And I know people that are watching live, first of all, thank you all of you for taking time to watch us kind of just chat here, have conversation about creativity and just the things that we're passionate about. And for those that are watching on replay, thank you as well. And Michael, thank you so much for being willing to take, you know, time out of your day and hop on and have a conversation, have a little bit of chat. So thanks so much for doing that. I know we'll stay in contact as well. Also my live, the Instagram live, just, I guess, is there a limit on Instagram live?
Maybe like an hour.
No, okay.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
I just want to give you a shout out. I've been connected with you for the past couple of years, and I'm excited that we could have this conversation and the many conversations we have in the DM. You have some incredible talents.
Well, thank you.
And I'm always looking at, how you're leading the way with content creation and just really building up an incredible, really a library of ways to support teachers so that they can just get in and start going. So I'm grateful to be connected with you, and I'm honored to be the first official guest of what I know is going to be a really exciting live show.
Yeah, this I know we had our hiccups at the start. For those of you, the getting all this set up to go live, it's like I had to shut down the computer and start it up again, and then okay, there it is. And but with all that, those are just learning experiences, and I think I just love this format. It's free flowing, and it's not perfect. I say in quotations perfect. I think we talked about it last week. There's these media giants that make incredible content that is just like sharp and clear and just very well produced, and then when you see their live, it's not the same because it's the quality, obviously, because we're restricted by bandwidth and the resolution of video, but nonetheless the conversation is what really was the focal point of it. So hey everybody, thank you for stopping by, and just want to give a appreciation again. Michael, thanks again. For those of you, if you want to see next week, I have a special guest, my buddy. He's just down the road, a couple hours away. Albert Thomas lives in Austin, so we're going to have a conversation with him in the Creators Lounge. So thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Michael, before I'm gonna go ahead and hop back on because I had it in my notes here. But how can people get a hold of you? I had to completely just blanked out on that.
That's all good. Yeah. So I'm on all social platforms, just in case, but you can connect with me on Twitter, where I'm super active in having conversations around creativity and education. You can, of course, connect with me here on my YouTube channel. So Tech Rabbi, youtube.com, / The Tech Rabbi, trying to put out, a consistent flow of content that's bringing value to educators, and I think anyone who's looking to grow and learn. And just reach out. Instagram as well. I mean, I'm all over the place. If you search The Tech Rabbi, I'm 99% going to be on that platform.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right, folks. Well, thanks again for watching. Appreciate you all. Be safe. Take care